Okay, Attorney Steve, we're back. Part 2, do not call, federal law, do not call list, part 2. If you saw the first part, you know there was some interesting stuff. We were talking about expired listings and FSBO'S, for sale by owners, where you're a new agent or a new real estate brokerage. In this case, we're talking about Arizona because we're referencing the state law as well. But you want to get in and start digging up some leads and calling people, trying to make something happen. And these are the laws you need to bear in mind, okay? We talked about 47 USC 227, the TCPA, the 1991 federal law that created the do not call list. And we talked about getting registered if you're a real estate broker, getting registered in here, setting up your profile, picking up to 5 area codes that you want to get all the numbers for, so you make sure you're not calling those. In other words, when you come to your MLS and you see the phone number, you want to make sure that it's not on the do not call list. And you do that by downloading a list. You download it every 31 days because the list keeps adding, obviously. So, and maybe adding and decreasing, could decrease, I guess. But you want to download the list and you want to scrub it, make sure that you're not calling somebody that's actually on the do not call list. Why? Because now you're violating federal law. Now you're risking potential lawsuit, you're risking money damages, you're risking injunctions, you're risking enforcement actions, so forth and so on. So we're not going to go into detail on that. Just know you want to comply with the federal law, especially when it's phone calls. You know, phone calls at dinner time, you know, people can tend to get upset about that. So you need to be very careful about that, okay? But get in, get registered. There's not a charge to register. Get your zip codes. Confirm your email link when you get that back. You can download your list. Also, what may be good for you when you're looking at these expired listings, because you're probably not going to want to use auto dialers or these robo dialers, these pre-recorded messages and things like that. You probably want a person. I mean, realistically, let's be realistic, probably that's what you're going to do. Never say never. I know there's some crazy ones out there that want to try everything. But so you get registered, you check this every 31 days. But what I'm saying is they will give you access to an internet page where you can load up to 10 phone numbers at a time, up to 100 per session. And so as you're going through looking at your listing, you can come here to the internet page and see, is it on there? Listing, is it on there? Listing, is it on there? Okay, do you see how this works? So that's how you try to remain compliant. That's how you do it. That's how you avoid or minimize your legal liability, which is ultra important, okay? So now let's talk a little bit. This is expired in FSBO'S. Let's go through real quickly. There are exceptions to the do not call list. Everybody's always saying, what's the exception? Aren't there exceptions? He's a business client of mine, business client. Isn't there an exception? Yeah, let's talk about some exceptions, okay? In general, business to business is okay. This federal law protects you if it protects consumers, homeowners, people that are consumers. It does not apply in most cases, not all cases, business to business solicitation. So in other words, if you're trying to sell businesses, you're a business opportunities broker, and you want to call the business down the street, you've got the phone number. Hey, may I speak to the manager, please? Yes, I was calling him to see if you had any interest in selling your business. You know, the best time to sell your business is not when you have to sell it, so forth and so on. That would be okay. In most cases, that's going to be okay because it's business to business. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. You're leasing office space, tenant representation, those kinds of things. Give it some thought. So that's not going to run afoul of the Fair Trade Commission Act. You do not need to register under the do not call if that's all you're doing. Then forget about what I'm telling you here. Okay, another exemption. Pre-existing business relationships within 18 months. If you had a pre-existing business relationship with someone, you're certainly allowed to go out, reach out. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, if you've thought any more about selling that barn that you wanted to sell, yeah, I think I might have a buyer. Those kinds of things, okay? Pre-existing business relationships. Here's another big one. Written consent. If you have the written consent of a person, even if they're on the do not call list, if they give you written consent, you have that in writing, right? Protect your file, CYA. If you have that letter, you're good to go, okay? Then you don't have to worry about the do not call list. Why? They're consenting. They're saying, go ahead and call me. I'm fine with it. It's great. Go ahead. But get it in writing. Some people will try to be clever and do this in a open house, in a guest book. Fine. Have yourself a guest book. Have people sign. You may want to have a column for their phone number. Hey, put your phone number there, and you may want to have a box that says, check, it's okay to call me. It's okay to call me. So what would you have there? You would have the name, the phone number, and a checkbox. Looks like pretty good consent, right? So you wouldn't have to worry about your do not call situation if by chance, turns out that 5 years ago they got on the do not call list, right? So always be thinking about protecting yourself, okay? So written consent. This is not relevant to most real estate companies, but we do have some out-of-the-box thinkers. I've had other brokers that want to start nonprofits and charitable real estate type organizations. We'll talk about that in other videos. But exemptions for surveys, polls, politics, nonprofit charities, those kinds of things will also find some exemptions. But again, you need to make sure you're exempt. This is not legal advice. I'm not telling you, oh, you know, Attorney Steve told me that I watched one of his videos and I know for sure. No, it's fact specific. If you don't know, do a paid consultation. Let's get it figured out. Let's look at your business practice, okay? Give us a call. We can take a look at that. Follow-up inquiries. If somebody's calling you, hey, I saw your ad, this and that, you can call them back. General rule of thumb, 3 months. Cut it off at 3 months, okay? So maybe keep track when somebody's calling you. Outside 3 months, somebody may give you a hassle, okay? So that's a general rule of thumb. Okay, so that's the basics of Arizona. You want to call those expired FSBO'S. You're in the state of Arizona. You got a brokerage out here. You're trying to comply with your federal law. You're analyzing whether or not any exemptions exist. You're aware of the state law, and you're trying to make sure you're exempt here by not doing a full sales presentation on the phone. So you're aware of that. In other words, if you're exempt there, no worries about registering with the Secretary of State or posting a bond or any of that. There is a voluntary form that you can fill out if you just want to inform the Secretary of State of Arizona that, hey, I'm engaged in telemarketing activities. It's up to you. They do have a form for that. You can find that on the web or give us a call and we can serve as your counsel in this area, okay? Finally, let's close this video out with some tips. Attorney Steve's top tips. If you're going after expired, you're going after the FSBO, okay? Number one, first bookmark Attorney Steve so you have a corporate counsel that can guide you through the problem areas, okay? Because you're probably going to have some problem areas. Every company has problems. This can be a sensitive area with the phone. Bookmark attorneysteve.net. attorneysteve.net. Who's your counsel for business and real estate matters? Attorney Steve. Okay. We're going to go through the final tips here, and I'm going to get a left side shot here, and I'm going to go over my top list here, okay? Attorney Steve's top tips when seeking those FSBO'S and expired listings. 1, don't use those auto dialers. Don't use the pre-recorded messages. Okay, there are some rules and some ways to get around it. I think it's impersonal. I think people don't like it. I don't think it's a best practice. People will disagree with me, fine. I wouldn't be using those things, and there are some legal issues involved if you're going to. If you're using auto dialers, you should definitely contact me and make sure we can work out a program that makes sense. Otherwise, I say don't do it. Register with your Federal Trade Commission on the do not call list. We talked about this. 3, create a policies and procedures manual. This should be part of your policies and procedures manual. If you're going to have your agents out here running around making calls, this and that, you better train them. You should have them watch this video. Say, hey, I want you to watch this video so at least you understand the liability that I face and you face, okay, for violating the do not call list. So have those conversations. Have a policy and procedure manual that explains certain things like don't call before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. Always leave your full name, your company name, your phone, leave those every time you're calling someone. I wouldn't leave messages personally. I don't think leaving messages is going to get you anywhere. I don't think that's where it's at. But those kinds of things, training them that if somebody opts out, we need to honor that, okay? Because you have to understand, some people have the right to opt out if they want to opt out, and so you have the right to do that. But you need to keep a separate internal opt-out list, and we are going to go to episode 3.